So, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us, and welcome to the Decibel UE and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Youth Awareness Program. We hope that you will learn more from this program and that it will inspire you to go out there and help us achieve the SDGs. So today we are hosting is myself, Leanne Broadwell from the United Nations, Tamara, and Melissa. They're both from Decibel. And also joining us, we have our SDG youth ambassadors, Kelvin Nepal and Zakia Calder. And I'm just going to hand over to them to talk a little bit more about the program and about their involvement in the program. So Kelvin or Zakia, you could go ahead.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Well, the SDG program in Trinidad and Tobago is a very good initiative to help enlighten young in a different way they could play a part. So, SDG goals, and there are 18 organizations that affiliated, and each role deals along set of goals. FAO with and like or initiative users, what we try to do, we try to bridge a gap between the SDG goals and the youth and show them how we pass by showing where, because youth want to, they don't know how they can play their part. What we do, we link with Leanne and UN in the UN coordination office and find out different initiatives that are being taken in different organizations. And then we highlight it and broadcast through our social media to if it's through a beach cleanup, if it's through gathering, to reduce waste, how to have to get quality education. Just simple measures they could do to play their part in the community to make everything a better place.
Calvin, you are breaking up a little, but I'll still ask Zakia to say a few words too.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Calvin was saying, as she said, he was breaking up, but I believe you would have gotten the main gist. So basically, we are working with the United Nations to spread awareness on the SDG goals. If you don't know what SDGs are, those are the Sustainable Development Goals. We have 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And well, I would believe most people have an idea of what sustainability is involved in, but it's basically just developing the present world in a way that does not negatively affect the future. So it's basically efficiency, having a kind of efficient world, basically. Because you could see now where when we started the Industrial Revolution, for example, it was good at that point in time, but now we are dealing with all the negative effects like pollution and this kind of thing. So we're trying to avoid a repeat of these instances. So yeah, as Calvin said, we basically just work together with the UN to spread word and to try to come up with ways in which we can achieve the SDG goals in Trinidad. We have a social media page. Right now we have an Instagram page. It is UN SDG Ambassadors TT. So you can look for us, and there's where we would showcase things. We already started showing things. 2 of our ambassadors spoke on the news this past week, so you could probably look out for us. And well, in this session, you would find out more about the Sustainable Development Goals, and even if you have any ideas that you think would be good, or if you have anything, you could always reach out to us via the Instagram page that I just told you.
Okay, so thank you all so much thank you for the introduction, Leanne, and thank you as well, Melissa, for organizing the technical aspect of it. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here today and to represent to host this workshop on behalf of the Decibel Arts and Entertainment Festival, and also to the partners, United Nations, which Leanne represents, and the United from the University of the West Indies. So this is the Sustainable Development Youth Awareness Program. So we have this Sustainable Development Goals Youth Awareness Program, and we're in week 1 of it, and it's a 3-week course or program. And in this first week, we're going to go through an introduction to the Sustainable Development Goals and how to localize it. In the second week, we will, well, at the end of today, we will give you a take-home exercise, and we'll ask you to do a presentation on that in the second week. And then, of course, in the third week, we'll have an award ceremony. So it's really good stuff. Well, Zakia so eloquently put it, and Calvin as well, you know, what are sustainable development goals and what youth action is within this context. So I feel kind of out of touch with young people, and maybe you guys, as I said, should have hosted this, but let's go. So we started, our morning session is broken into 3 main parts. We have an icebreaker coming up, the introduction to the Sustainable Development Goals, and then we have a discussion. And we really want this to be discussion focused because we want to hear the issues that are affecting you. You know, it's really a listening exercise, and we want to have this dialogue. We'll have a break, and then in the afternoon, we'll focus on localizing sustainable development goals. We'll have an interactive exercise. Then we'll just come back and have a discussion and the instructions for your take-home exercise. So the icebreaker, just want to background about yourself, an interesting fact, and an area of concern on an issue affecting you. So yeah, I will go first, and then maybe as I call your name, you just unmute yourself, or I unmute you, and you just briefly introduce yourself. So my name is Tamara Bujawan. I work in, or my background is in development economics and environmental governance. An interesting fact about myself, I don't really think I'm all that interesting, but I would probably just say I like to cook. I think I can cook well, but the feedback hasn't been that good. I mean, I don't know if that's interesting or not, but okay. And it's an area of concern or an issue that, well, I work with climate change or indirectly with climate change, and an area of concern for me is that we can't arrest global warming to the 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees Celsius that we need to, of course, slow down or halt, well, global warming. Yeah, so that's my area of concern, and that's the area that I work in. So I will hand over to you guys now. If we can have, or maybe Mel, perhaps you can unmute them. So if we can have the first person, Celine, if she's here, if she can just introduce herself and tell us, you know, something about yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Celine Frederick. I'm 19 years old. I attended MUDSEC, and in September, I'll be starting UTT. Something interesting about me, I am a youth ambassador at Support Autism TNT. And an area of concern affecting me, I would say, you know, I think that we should be able to have more inclusive classroom settings for those with autism and special needs. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent, thank you and welcome. Maybe we can have Kelvin again now.
Hi, my name is Calvin Ipal. I have a BSc in economics, and I'm trying to finish my master's in economics at the UB. About me, I'm a dreamer. I dream too big for my understanding. An area of concern that affects me is the issue around plastic. Plastic are surrounding the retail space, because a lot of plastic comes through individual packaging of clothing, and we don't have right now we don't have a much area to dispose of it in major scale. So that's me there.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Jonathan, is Jonathan here? Okay, well, let's skip to Maya.
Hi everyone, my name is Maya Nanan. I am currently awaiting CSEC results. I don't know if Leanne remember me, but I actually took part in the UN SDG photography competition last year, and I
Yes,
placed
Maya, I remember.
I placed first in the youth category. That was such an honor. Thank you for that opportunity, and thank you for this opportunity as well. And recently, I am the first Trinidadian to have the Diana Award recipient for my work with individuals with autism. But right now, I think that is definitely an issue. But mental health as well, as a lot of people are losing their jobs. So I think they need the right counseling and everything. So that is another issue that is arising right now.
Okay, fantastic. So let's jump to Chantal.
Hi, good morning. Well, my name is Chantal Thomas. I attend UWI and I'm studying economics. An interesting fact about me, well, I used to play the clarinet. I don't play it anymore, but yeah. And although it's a touchy topic, my area of concern is like discrimination in terms of racial inequality and gender inequality, and also religion. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I mean, contentious or not, it's a very relevant issue that we have to tackle. So thank you. Okay, we had Chantal. Let's see, Shania. Shania, sorry if I mispronounce it.
Hi, good morning. My name is Shania Emmanuel. I am actually a St. Lucian who lives and goes to school in Trinidad. An area of concern for me is, well, basically the well-being and mental health of students, especially students who live in houses where they've been domestically abused, and also the issue of racism in society, which I think that it shouldn't be as prominent, because I feel like we should respect each other enough to know the value of a person goes beyond their skin color.
Definitely, thank you. So let's get on. Teddy Ann.
Hi, yes, hello, good day. Yes, my name is Tadian Kwamana. I am 19 years old. I went to a secondary school. An interesting fact about me would be that I am a scholarship winner and I placed in the Caribbean for being myself. Yeah. And a concern for me as somebody going into business would be the use of sustainable business practice and the elimination of single-use plastics in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's hear from, we have, okay, Selena. So it's Selena Samuel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Selena Samuel. I am 16 years old and I am currently in Form 5, awaiting C6 results. And I hope to do A-levels in the future. Also, I attended MUN 2020, held by the Rotary Club of Port of Spain. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we're going to do MUN again in 2021. So that's that. An interesting fact about me is that I am an artist. I use gouache and acrylic paints, and an area of concern / issue affecting me, I'd have to say violence against women and girls in Trinidad, and the lack of LGBTQ rights in Trinidad also. Recently, I think it was June, July, or August, there was a domestic amendment bill, and LGBT persons were excluded from all of the new legislation and laws that they put in place. So the LGBTQ persons basically have no rights. So that's it.
Okay, very good, thank you. We'll just go back to Zakia so she can just tell us,
Okay, well, my name is Zakia Calder. I am a UN SDG Youth Ambassador. I recently completed my degree in mechanical engineering, my undergraduate in mechanical engineering. An interesting fact about me, I don't know how interesting this is, but I am a science student by profession, but I'm very passionate about social sciences as well. An area of concern for me would be youth opportunities. So opportunities for youth to really make their mark in society, because something that I noticed, especially as a recent undergraduate trying to enter the workforce, is that there are barely any opportunities for us unless, well, maybe before, but especially in these COVID times, our opportunities are very limited. So I would like to see an increase in youth opportunities in a way where we are not just, just they say, oh, come, look, we have this young person here, and it's just like one person, and the person, like when they speak, it's just falling on dead ears. Like I want us to have opportunities where we can actually make some change and where our voice and our opinions have some kind of worth in society.
Okay, I mean, thank you for putting that so eloquently. And yes, I think we've gone through, okay, we have somebody entering now, but we've really gone through most of everybody who's been here so far. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of yourselves with me. Okay, I'm going to end the polling now. Everybody has heard about the sustainable development. Let's see, share results. So you can see that everybody has pretty much heard about the sustainable development goals, and as well, most people are working, well, majority are on computers, so I think that shouldn't affect the way that you see the presentation. So, and you guys have already figured out if you're going to share a camera or whatever, so that's okay. So I think let's get started now on an introduction to the Sustainable Development Goals. As Zakia rightly said, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and I will now just play this video. So please, if you have any issues with the presentation and so on, send a message. And two things I should have said before. One is, if you have a pressing question, you can always raise your hands and we will address it immediately. Otherwise, just type your question and we will get to it eventually. So let's get started on the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so let's go on to the next video.
guys. Do you have time for a few quick questions? I see you're having a lot of fun, but do you ever stop and think if what you do is sustainable? And do you know what sustainable development means? Sustainable development is to make the world a better place for everyone now without destroying the possibilities for the next generations. If you wonder if something is sustainable, you can ask yourself, can we do this over and over again forever? Sustainable development means that we need to keep three things in mind at once: social progress, economic development, and climate and environment. First of all, we have to take care of our planet. We have many natural ecosystems that must be in balance in order for us to live here. The climate system is one of them. This system ensures that the temperature is correct and that the atmosphere emits exactly the right amount of solar energy. When we emit harmful greenhouse gases, such as CO2, we clog the atmosphere. This changes the temperatures on Earth, which again affects our development. How we produce and use energy is incredibly important. Oil and coal are examples of energy we may run out of. Water, wind, and sun, however, will always be here. Using the lasting sources of energy that renew themselves is good for the planet and can provide jobs for years to come. Economics. Almost everything we develop, buy, and trade starts with nature. The smarter we use our natural resources and the better systems we create for a fair distribution, the more sustainable we are. One way to contribute to a more uneven distribution is to be more aware of what we buy and how it is produced. A football is a good example. It travels far before it reaches the football players. First, the materials are made. Then, they print the logo somewhere else before a third country sews it all together. One single football sees the whole world before it reaches its goal. This journey ties us together. If we are to win the battle for a sustainable future, we have to play with fair rules that applies to everyone. Social progress. We humans are part of nature, but we're also important resources for the world. Just like water, the forest, and the sun, we have minds that can create the strangest and most creative things. But for us to be the best versions of ourselves, there are certain things that must be in order, like having equal opportunities to education, safety, food, and medicine. This provides greater opportunities for us as human beings, but also for the planet. We just have to think in new ways. These three must work together. That is sustainable development. And there is actually a plan for this. All the countries of the United Nations have agreed on a joint plan for sustainable development. But for the plan to work, we need to cooperate, and we need you to be on board. Are you with us?
Okay, y'all. So thank you for that. I hope you can already see that you have a lot of the issues that you'll mention were sort of covered in that video. And sorry, I have to so let me just share my screen once again. And okay, so we're back on, and all right, great, excellent. So we saw from those two videos that a lot of the issues that you mentioned have already been covered. And what I really wanted to show you as well is the evolution sort of this, to show you basically the evolution of the Sustainable Development Goals. Because what you would have found is that prior to the year 2000, you had prior to the year 2000, development goals were basically fragmented. So you had different arms of the UN. You had the World Health Organization doing some things. You had the United Nations Development Program doing their stuff, but it was all disjointed. And then with the Millennium Declaration and ultimately the Millennium Development Goals that came into effect in 2000, they sort of set these goals and targets or things that they wanted to achieve. And these included eradicating extreme hunger, there's gender equality, things that you mentioned, health, and of course the Partnership for Development. And this was from 2000 until 2015, and then in 2015, countries came together for the 2030 sort of agenda for sustainable development, and they expanded on those goals. So whereas the Millennium Development Goals were simply 8 goals, 21 targets, and 63 indicators with sort of mixed success, you can say, the Sustainable Development Goals turned out to be more inclusive. So you saw the first goal for the Millennium Development Goal was eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. And then that, of course, transitioned to, you can see it was split into Sustainable Development Goals 1 and 2, where you split into no poverty and zero hunger. And then all the health indicators of the Millennium Development Goals were actually grouped into good health and well-being, and the environment and sort of climate goals got spread out a bit more. So it was disaggregated from that one goal in the Millennium Development Goals. And this is really the evolution of sort of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so now we've reached a point where we have 17 goals, and each goal is matched by a target and then an indicator. So the target is really what we aim to achieve, and then the indicator is how we measure the progress or shortcomings in achieving that goal. So you can't, you know, it's really important to sort of measure and see where you're going and adjust accordingly. So, and just to give you an example, so with the Sustainable Development Goal 1, it's end poverty in all its forms, and it has 7 targets. So it focuses on no poverty. And the first target, for instance, is eradicating extreme poverty for all people, and you measure that extreme poverty by living on less than $1.25 US per day. And how do you measure that, or what is the indicator? So you look at the proportion of the population below the international poverty line. You look at it by your sex, your age, employment, because it's important to sort of look at it at this level as well, because you don't want groups left behind. I mean, a statistic by itself, an indicator by itself, where you don't disaggregate it by this sort of in this level, you can have misleading information. So it can look like, okay, on average, everybody's doing well, we have moved off poverty, but then you have different pockets within society who are not performing as well. So that's the importance of having an indicator. So this is just basically an introduction to Sustainable Development Goals. I know that you guys have mentioned, you all have heard of the Sustainable Development Goals. So yeah, just moving forward, I think we want to, well, first of all, let me just see, are there any questions? So let me just see, are there, okay, so there are no questions at the moment. Do you want me to go slower? Do you want me to go faster? Or is there any feedback right now? Or okay, well, don't seem to have any comments. All right, so as I said, that's just a brief introduction to the thank you, Celine. Yeah, so that's just a brief introduction to the Sustainable Development Goal. And as I said earlier today, this is not about me telling you about sustainable development. We want to hear what you have to say. And this year, the United Nations is marking its 75th anniversary. And as I said before, it's a global listening exercise, because unlike other anniversary events, the United Nations they want to hear from you. They believe that 2020 must be a forward-looking sort of dialogue. They want to hear from young people, and you know, they believe that young people should be at the forefront of the efforts and how we move forward. And this is, of course, in relation to the, well, it does have implications for the Sustainable Development Goals, but it's really giving you guys a voice, yeah, and let them hear you. So, you know, right now it's a time of great disruption. You know, we have this global health crisis. We have a health crisis, severe economic and social impacts of this crisis, and you know, just seems like it's distrust and isolation. So we really would like to hear your thoughts on. So we're opening the floor right now. You raise your hands. And we would like to get you involved and just share your thoughts on these sort of topics. Yes, so we have so this is our discussion. We have these questions that the UN would like to, of course, hear your opinion on. So what are the issues or problems that you see arising with the current pandemic, and what should the international community prioritize to recover better from this pandemic? And of course, what kind of world will we be living in 25 years from now? And what is the change that you want to see, and how do we get there? So I'd really like to, you should have received these questions before, and I hope you had the time to think about it. And yeah, we would just open the floor now, and you can just, of course, raise your hands.
Hi everyone again. I'd like to say, sorry, one of the important issues arising from the current pandemic is mental health. And a lot of the time, I feel like in Caribbean societies, we kind of put mental health and well-being on the back burner. And during this COVID period, I'm sure a lot of people have had to deal with anxiety and depression, and especially people who might be living in like violent households and stuff like that. So, for example, I have a sister who goes to university in England, and for her, it's been really hard because their living situation is very different. Where we might have a garden, they are basically just in their bedrooms on the university campus, and you can't really go outside. So I feel like a lot of the things that we usually do to deal with stress has been taken away from us. So yeah, that's one of the things I'd say.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so now we have Mayo.
Would you like me to answer all the questions or just one? Your mic is muted.
Sorry, just go ahead and you can answer any question, all the questions as you like, because it's a discussion, and you know, we want to just hear from you all and what's going on. So yeah.
Okay, great. So for the first one, I think that there's an increase in poverty as well as there is an increase in the death rates because of the pandemic. A lot of people have now lost their jobs, and a lot of people are now dying because of the virus. So I think that that will affect a country's economy in many ways because the GDP and everything, it will just start to decrease because of that. I also think that there's a rise in the illegal immigrants because people are now like going to different countries because they are trying to get better facilities or whatever the case may be, whatever the situation. They are trying to get jobs, etc. at another place. Let me check the second question. What should the international community prioritize to recover better from the pandemic? I think that they should prioritize education and healthcare because now we are able to see that a lot of people cannot afford education. For example, right here in Trinidad, a lot of students, they don't have computers, they don't have internet to access education. So they are missing out on a lot of hours of school, as well as healthcare. We can see that our healthcare system is not in a strong position because we don't have like proper equipment and stuff to handle this situation. So we can see that.
Okay, thank you for those points. I
Yeah.
mean, really
Yeah.
topical issues. Okay, do we have anybody else that would like to say anything? Okay,
Yeah.
Tamia, go ahead, please, Tamia.
I think in addition to what she was saying with poverty, we saw just how many people were towing the line of poverty because previously they weren't able to save based on the kind of jobs they had, and now that so many things happen and they suddenly can't provide for their children, they suddenly can't pay the rent. So the problem really sometimes is the line that people are towing. A lot of people are in this country are just towing that line and living day to day. So that's a major problem.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, we actually saw that with the first SDG, where you talk about towing the line, but we saw that cutoff point $1.25. So there's always like this sort of you're just barely hanging on, and you can easily be pushed into poverty. And pandemic can also do that. I mean, we see the pressures increasing here and that. So, Celine, I believe you raised your hand.
Right, so I believe in 25 years to come, we would live in a more technological, advanced society where we will be able to like perform everyday tasks with the use of technology. So we'll have more online schooling, and most persons will be able to work from home, if not all. And down to the groceries, they might be delivered to us, not having to, interact so much. Yep.
Okay, great. And do we have sort of any more? Okay, Shania, please go ahead.
Well, basically, I think that most of the issues we face during this pandemic, they're linked because a lot of countries have gone under lockdown. Many countries have closed their borders. So it's not necessarily only affecting the money on the ground, like your individual pocket, but the economy at large, the government funds. So I feel like agriculture, hospitality, they're suffering because restaurants use, hotel use. Basically, we're staying home or in your own space as often as possible, trying not to come in contact with other people unnecessarily. So I feel like these people are feeling some pressure, and a lot of hotels are actually letting go of staff. Well, I know in St. Lucia, a lot of hotels have like permanently fired people and they cannot afford to sustain their staff. And also a lot of airlines, when you have all these travel restrictions, it's very risky to travel at this time. So many people won't travel, and that's a cost to them. And also people like at the start of the pandemic, we were like panic buying. So like a lot of smaller supermarkets, sometimes like they really can't meet the demands of the community. So you get people going to bigger stores because they can get what they need there, and the smaller supermarkets will really be affected.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. And friends, do we have any comments basically about the 25 years from now? So what are the changes that you guys would like to see, and any ideas for how do we get there?
I think added to the second question, and it was basically said already, but COVID or the pandemic has really shown that we need to move towards a better online environment. And it's not just younger people, but also educating older people on the uses of technology. So I would like to see in 25 years that, internet and computers and smartphones is something that everybody uses and is used in classrooms and outside of classrooms.
That's perfect. Thanks. And I think Selena had her hand up.
Yeah. For the third question, in 25 years, I would like to see everyone wearing masks because, well, I'm not trying to call anything on the world, but new diseases are coming. New diseases are being introduced, and just to prevent another pandemic from happening, I think that wearing masks should be a norm, and having like all those cleansing facilities in schools and business places, that should be there for the next 25 years. And also, I would like to answer question 1 and say that an issue that I see arising with the current pandemic is the increase of gender-based violence, particularly intimate partner violence in homes. During the lockdown that we all had, I think, there was an increase in domestic violence. So I think that we should try to tackle gender equality. In case that anything like this should happen again, we won't have that issue. And that's all.
Thanks. I appreciate those comments. And yeah, it's true. I mean, they have spoken about, and I think the SDG number 15 refers to that. I mean, biodiversity loss. As we increase this biodiversity loss, we are at risk of introducing further for diseases jumping from animals to humans, as we have seen with this coronavirus, this novel coronavirus. So yes, definitely an important point and something that we have to address now, so that 25 years from now, we will not hopefully all be walking around with masks. So yes, thank you. Any other comments to add? Okay, I don't see any more hands. We seem to be moving quite well in terms of time. As I said, of course, is we really want to hear from you. So please raise your hands. We appreciate your comments. But I think a lot of the points that you guys raised in the first session, in the introduction, the icebreaker, and now there are a lot of common themes, and you can already start seeing how they affect or how they can fall into the sustainable development goal categories. So you have, for instance, gender-based. Let's just go back. So yeah, so we talk about quality education, health, and again, talk about towing the line, and poverty. So people slipping into poverty, life on lands, and also life below water refers to the sort of biodiversity loss. Inequalities was one that was mentioned, and you also spoke about SDG 12 indirectly with sustainable and responsible consumption and production. So, you know, we're already starting to see that a lot of these issues that are affecting young people today actually there are targets and there are indicators that are covered by the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think we're going to get ready to break soon, and I really want you guys to think about these issues, because when we do come back in a little bit, okay, so when we do come back, we'll continue with the Sustainable Development Goals, but we'll also have an interactive exercise where we will, of course, look at the issues that you guys have raised, and as well, sort of map these issues according to Sustainable Development Goals and targets. But if there are any other questions or anything, so please let me know if you have any other questions or anything that you would like to discuss before we break, because we do have a few minutes. Yes, Teddy Ann, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, I guess I just wanted to add, right, that I'd written down here that I would like to see in 25 years the dismantling of totalitarian regimes. For example, the regimes that still exist in North Korea and the communist regime in China, because I believe that communism and those totalitarian regimes really do not respect human rights and appreciate the value of the human person. right? So what I think that needs to be done as to how to get there is to foster more solidarity, internationally, and also the empowerment and education of those citizens so they can realize their inner dignity and rise up to, peacefully come out of those regimes. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Chedian. And Maya, I believe you have something else to add?
With regards to the last question, right, I was thinking that the world can be like, it would be like a 50-50. So it would be in like a horrendous state situation and it might be in a good situation. It depends on how we handle the situation. So I think like from now, like from as leaders of tomorrow, basically, we need to start accomplishing these issues by addressing them so we could individually tackle them like one step at a time. So that way, like for example, if laws have to be passed, they could be enforced and the penalties would be there for persons who break these laws, with regards to those situations. That is what I wanted to add. So each government, they could like probably strategize on ways that, but not only the government, get the young people involved because I mean, we are the future. So yeah, that is what I wanted to add.
Right, thank you for that. And I mean, just following up on that, do you think then the burden has fallen to your generation? I mean, to resolve a lot of these issues that we're seeing now. I mean, issue of climate change and so on.
Yes, I think it has because I mean, I'm not seeing any adults taking that they're not putting themselves in that position. They're not thinking about us. They tend to think, okay, you all are little, you all are babies or whatever. You all don't have a say. But I think that they are not seeing it the long way because they might. Well, I don't want to say they're gonna die in the next few years, but you know where I'm coming from. That we still have a lot to live and we still have a lot to experience, and we want the world to be a better place. So we need to make these opportunities for ourselves.
Right, definitely. You have a big investment, one would say, in the future than the past generations. So I understand what you're saying. So yes, Tamia, please go ahead.
Currently, I don't think that the way we deal with resources in terms of industries, large scale production of certain stuff, I don't think that's very sustainable in terms of the planet because a lot of times they have to do large scale, maybe if they need palm oil or stuff like that, deforestation, and that's a lot. And sometimes you don't even need that much because a lot of it goes to waste. And then a lot of the companies, they're trying to make things as cheap as possible, and by making things as cheap as possible they go towards cheap things, and that creates a greater burden on the climate. And I don't think that in 25 if we keep going with that in 25 years, I don't think that current phenomenon is sustainable and conducive to the environment we want to have in 25 years. That makes sense.
Right. Yes, of course, excellent points. And just hand back over to Teddy Young.
Yeah, to expand what the last person just said. Yeah, our unsustainable policies in terms of the business policies, I think that businesses should be held more accountable as to the impact on the environment, because a lot of time the responsibility falls on the consumer. So the consumer is supposed to reduce, reuse, and recycle. But what about businesses that are not taking efforts to gain those sustainable practices, right? Yes, we have a lobby as a people and especially as youths to encourage businesses to do these sustainable practices, and those of us going into business to make sure to invest in research and development to discover how can we market our product without being swell, without doing like double packaging, and just realize, hey, we can't continue with the way that we are and do some disruptive innovation practices. So the government, I think it's a role of a lot of different factors. Just straight up starting from the family to empower the family to be able to, hey, we have to recycle. I think that should be a culture. The government should be able to encourage business and say you have to work within these certain restrictions, and that in the capitalist society is completely unrestricted in terms of profit to whatever is profitable, and the business owners to take initiative.
Okay, that's an incredibly valid point, and we do take it into account. So we're actually running short on time now, and I think this is a good place to leave it off. But I think what these last comments have demonstrated is that you can have one issue, for example, that was SDG number 12, responsible consumption and production, but you see that it has implications for the other SDGs. So you would see that it affects climate action. It also affects SDG number 14, 15, and so life on land, life on water, these SDGs. So with that, I would just like to break for now, and we can all recharge our batteries. Hopefully I get some life into me and maybe channel some inner youth and can engage with you a little bit more actively. But no, it's really great, and thank you for your comments in this first session. So let's break now and come back at 1 p.m. Yes, I believe it's 1 p.m. We will come. So we'll be back at, yes, 1 p.m. We'll continue with our Sustainable Development Goals. We focus on localizing those goals, and then we'll have an exercise. So once again, thank you all for your time, and thank you for your contributions this morning, and we'll meet again at 1 p.m. Okay.
Hi everyone, it's Melissa here from the Decibel team. I just wanted to say thank you again to the United Nations as well as the University of the West Indies for partnering with us to put on this workshop. We are beyond excited to see what you students are going to present as your ideas for how we can make Trinidad how we can provide more of a sustainable future for Trinidad and Tobago. Like you guys said it yourself, you're the future, you're the upcoming generation. You guys are the ones that are going to make this happen, not the adults. So we're really excited to see what you guys are going to bring to the table with this project. I also wanted to hand it over to Tamara. She's going to continue the session for the next hour and go over the project and what it is that you guys really are going to be, what we're really looking for with this project. And just to give you guys a little bit more background, just so you know how much you are in the presence of greatness as you are working with Tamara. She has about 10 years of experience working towards sustainable development goals. She was part of the consulting team that helped build the benchmarks for sustainability for Nestle in Frankfurt. She's also part of the Energy Chamber in Trinidad, where they're working towards creating alternative energy resources that are going to give a sustainable future to Trinidad. And believe it or not, she's also a lead author. I mean, she's one of the leads for the Initiative for Climate Action Transparency. It's not something that I personally read, but I'm really hoping that one of you guys have. And if you did, feel free to ask her questions, use her as a resource. She's really going to be the best asset you have as you work on this project. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tamara, and you guys are in great hands with her, trust me. Tamara.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Mel. I do appreciate that warm introduction, and it's really something, so thank you for that. And yeah, let's just jump right into it again, because we have in the last bit just focused on an introduction to the Sustainable Development Goals. And you should have seen sort of a pattern emerging that sustainable development, yes, it's forward-looking, it's focusing on future generations as well, including them into the whole development context. But there are three principles that you would have seen that it focuses on the economics, so society, and of course the environment is sort of balancing those three elements. So sure, let's get back to it. I have 2 more videos to share with you, and then we'll do an interactive exercise. So. All right. Let's see.
Hello, my name is Malala and I'm from Pakistan. We have a very urgent mission to complete by 2030 and you can help us. Together, we must fight inequality, end extreme poverty and respect our planet. I'm determined to do this. Are you?
Excuse me. Hello? Have you got a minute? Well, this is important. We need your help. Imagine you're traveling in space. You're looking for intelligent life. You've been traveling for a while because space is very spacious. You've already spotted millions of planets with no life at all, lots of acid, lava, that sort of thing. But nowhere you'd go for your holidays. And then you see it. Earth. A tiny island in space. A little speck of water, rock and soil with a thin veil of air that we can breathe. There might be life out there in space, but here on Earth, it's everywhere. On the land, in the water, in the air. Plants, insects, birds, fish and every type of living creature. Some beautiful, some, frankly, a bit weird. And people, billions of people like you and me. You know, beautiful, reasonably intelligent life. Well, I'm just saying. In most ways, we're just like the rest of life on Earth. We start from tiny seeds, and with the right conditions, we grow and mature. To do that, we all need the same basic things. No, not mobile phones, trainers and Facebook, but fresh water, clean air, and healthy food. Without those, we don't last long, no matter how smart our phones are. The good news is that Earth has enough for all of us. The bad news is we've got some serious problems in our way. The first is climate change. The way we're living on Earth now is damaging the very things we need to live. The fuels we burn are choking the atmosphere with gases we can't breathe. We're running out of clean drinking water, but some of us waste it on things that we don't need. And all of this is changing the weather, and that's not even the half of it. The second problem is inequality. Some people on Earth have far more than they need, and most people don't have nearly enough. Many live in terrible poverty. It's just not right. Millions of people are unable to get medicines or healthcare that could stop them from getting sick, or cure them if they do. In some places, children complain about having to go to school. In others, millions of children can't go to school at all. Is that fair? The thing is, we're causing these problems. So we can fix them too, if we all work together and get creative. Let me explain. If you think about it, all living things have superpowers. Birds can fly. We can't. Dogs can smell things we can't, which is not always a bad thing. Plants absorb gas that we can't breathe and turn it into air that we can. But human beings have a power that other creatures don't. We are the most creative creatures ever. Our heads are full of ideas and we're great at making things too. And with that power, we've already changed the world over and over and solved thousands of problems. So now we can do it again. The good news is we have a plan that can only succeed with your help. There is one organisation in the world that represents the people of 193 countries, and it's entirely dedicated to keeping us peaceful and working together. You may have heard of it, the United Nations. They have just announced the Global Goals for Sustainable Development. These are 17 goals to protect the planet against climate change and make the world safer, fairer and more just for everyone. We have to achieve these goals by 2030. The great thing about a plan is that we can check how we're doing as we go along, give ourselves a pat on the back if we do well, and try harder if not. 2030 isn't so far away, so we need to start right now. There's a lot we can do if we work together and get really creative. We can start by making these goals famous. So find out what they are and tell everyone, and ask everyone to tell everyone else. Then, and this is the exciting bit, see if there's something practical you can do to actually help. If we don't waste food, water or electricity, that would help protect the planet. If we all stick up for people who aren't being treated fairly and respect each other's human rights, that would make a big difference too. There are 17 goals altogether, So, lots of different ways in which you can help. We also need some new ideas and new ways of doing things. What if being a girl or a boy made no difference to how safe you feel, the friends you have, or the places you could go? What if we found new ways to make water clean and drinkable? What if we could recycle all of our waste? What else do you think we could do? We all live on Earth, and we depend on the Earth to live. We have so many different cultures, but we only have one planet. If we take care of it and each other and share what we produce fairly and sustainably, everything we need is right here. Someday we may find intelligent life on other planets. In the meantime, let's see how intelligent we can make it down here for all of us. At home, on Earth.
I'm just saying.
Hello, I'm Emma Watson. We have an urgent mission to complete by 2030, and I really need your help. We need to fight global inequality, end extreme poverty, and respect our planet. Watch this film to find out how you can use your creativity and power to help us achieve these goals. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Are you there? I was just saying that we have to use our creative superpowers to achieve the United Nations global goals. How? Although the Earth is just a tiny speck in space, it seems enormous to us when we're on it. The global goals can seem huge too. But if you focus on fixing the things where you live, you can make a big difference. There are 3 ways you can help. You can invent, innovate, and campaign. So buckle up and let's take a lightning flight around the world to see what young people are doing already. First stop is Istanbul in Turkey, where we meet Elif. She's an inventor. Like many big cities, there's a lot of pollution in Istanbul. Some caused by petroleum-based plastics. Elif wasn't happy about that and wondered what she could do. So she invented a new natural plastic made from banana skins. No, seriously. It's cheap, easy to recycle, and you can make it in your own kitchen. And if you like banana desserts, you can't really lose. Unless you eat too much. So, let's talk about toilets. This is Rohit. He lives in Bangalore in India. The population there is growing very quickly, and so is all the waste. A regular toilet uses 6 litres of water each time it's flushed. This is too much where water's scarce. So Rohit invented a toilet that saves 50% of that water. He called it the vacuum flush. His invention won an international science prize, and now he's flushed with his own success. As it were. You can be an innovator, be creative, and think about how to improve the way we live. Take urban creators in North Philadelphia. This amazing group of teenagers reclaimed derelict land in a dangerous, run-down neighbourhood. They built a thriving farm where they grow fresh food and now supply hundreds of local homes and restaurants. Life Do Grow Farm has transformed the community and made it healthier and safer for everyone. Now, let's go to Nigeria, which has one of the fastest growing populations in the world. This is Team Charis, a group of brilliant girls who are solving a big problem. Team Charis realised that in parts of Nigeria, lots of people get sick because rubbish isn't cleaned up properly. So they created Discardius, a phone app to report waste and have it taken away safely by eco-friendly cars. See? Sometimes a healthier world is just one great idea away. You could be a campaigner. Malati and Isabel are sisters from Bali. They've been on a mission to stop plastic bags from harming their beautiful island home. Millions of plastic bags end up in the ocean. They pollute the water and harm marine life. Malati and Isabel decided enough was enough. They organised petitions and beach clean-ups, and now their efforts have convinced their governor to ban plastic bags in Bali by 2018. Finally, let's go to Jordan. This is Mazoom from Syria. She used to live in a refugee camp. Many girls in the camp had to marry so young that they had to give up their education. Mazoom thought this was a big mistake, and she waged a campaign to convince parents to keep their daughters in school and not make them marry too young. All girls have a right to a great education. And just look at what one educated girl can achieve with enough determination. Young inventors, innovators and campaigners everywhere are changing the world for good. And so can you. You just need to care, get creative and collaborate. If we all do that, by 2030 we can really make the global goals a reality. I'm just saying.
Okay, so how did you all feel about that video, those two videos? I mean, like for me, when I looked at it, there were two main takeaways from it. Well, one, I'm already sort of matching some of the ideas or some of the things you have mentioned to sustainable development goals, to the issues that you all mentioned, and you know, also trying to think of practical examples or practical ideas that can probably be used to address some of the issues that were mentioned earlier. And with that in mind, we would now like to turn to focusing on localizing the SDGs. So earlier today, you all raised quite a few issues. And I mean, they included, for example, inclusivity in the classroom. So for people with disabilities and differently abled people, responsible consumption and production, single-use plastics, sustainability within production processes, discrimination and violence, youth opportunities. So I did mention earlier sort of the commonalities among the SDGs, and that it is broken into three main sort of areas: the economic, the social, and the environment. So I just want us to take this time now to have an interactive exercise. I would just like us now, I'll probably call on you individually and you just tell me which issue you looked at, how did you group it, economic, social, climate, and environment, whether it had different elements. So within that issue, if it touched on a number of those elements, and yeah, if you see sort of a cross-cutting theme emerging. And I will write it out and then I will map this and send it to you at the end of the evening or by tomorrow. So, okay, so Teddy Ann, would you like to start?
For me?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. All right, so the Sustainable Development Goals I looked at was plastics. I thought that fell under both, an economic goal and an environmental goal. The plastics industry, that is a very big and environmental because in relation to take to biodegrade. Right. The specific goals that those relate to, I wrote down the number. So I think it relates to goal number 6, which is clean water and sanitation. Goal number 15, which is life on land. Goal number 14, life below water, goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. Goal number 12, responsible consumption and production, as well as goal number 13 in climate actions. So 6 goals.
Okay, and
Did I
did
do that
you
right?
rank these goals? Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a really good start. So these goals, did you rank them by importance? Did you rank these goals by importance? How did you determine? Did you rank the goals by importance? So which one is like a primary goal, which one will be a complementary or secondary goal?
The question is, which one is a secondary goal?
Yes. So which would you say is the primary goal?
Well,
okay. So
I don't know if I'm breaking up or what. Just now, hold on.
Okay, 1 month.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I am just asking if you, when you're ranking these, which would you say, because you listed 6 goals, and which one would you say is like a primary goal, a secondary goal?
Yeah.
So for instance, if you said plastics.
Okay, I think I understood what you said.
Okay, yes.
Okay, yeah, anyways, yeah, I think the main goals are climate action.
Okay.
What's the next one? That's all.
All right.
Yeah, I think the main
well,
would be climate action.
Okay.
As well as life below water.
Right. Okay. So you're
And
saying
then all
now.
the others would be kind of secondary.
Okay, great. So you're looking at plastics from sort of the environmental side, environment and climate, and you're saying primary goals, of course, climate action, life below water because of the waste and the negative impact for marine life.
I'm sorry, but you're breaking up. I think it's me. I think my sentence is breaking up. So I think I'll have to leave and come back because I can't hear you properly.
Okay, sure. Okay, are the others hear me clearly? Is the problem on my end or?
I think your video and sound is fine, Tamara. We can move to the next student. I think it was just her connection.
Okay, great. All right, so I hope that gave a little example of what we're looking for and just sort of mapping it. So if you're saying plastics, then if you're saying plastics, then you're looking at it from an environmental, you can choose which way you want to look at it. So you choose maybe the environment side. So the primary indicate or primary goals from an environment perspective would be like the marine life goal number 14 or goal number 15. And then from the economic side, you can probably look at it from the perspective of goal number 12. So if you can sort of, I'll map this out for you after. So if we can move on to Shunia.
Okay, so the issues I focused on were discrimination, access to proper education, and the unemployment issue. I'd say discrimination is a social issue. And basically the goal would be number 10, reduce inequalities. For unemployment, it is, well, I saw it like it could be both a social issue for the person and economic because it would, well, affect the economy in terms of productivity. And I think that this pandemic has created a huge issue because a lot of people are losing their jobs. And I think the youth opportunities would fall under this because if you already have a great number of unemployed youth and you have people losing their jobs, that creates like a great number of unemployed people, which would affect the economy, because if you're not getting money personally, it's really hard for you to actually go out and purchase stuff that would give money back into the economy. So I think it can also tie in with goal number 8, decent work and economic growth, and also sustainable cities and communities. And with the issue of education, well, it's quality education is a goal on its own, number 4. And I think that it should be a priority because right now, a lot of students don't actually have access to proper internet and laptops. So it's basically transition to online school cuts off a big part of the community who don't have like opportunities like we have. Like I have access to a computer, access to the internet, but students with good ideas that can actually change the world probably don't have access to these things, and they would be at a disadvantage. So yeah, these were the goals I basically thought of.
Yeah, I mean that's really quite good. So you looked at basically three things that were social primarily, and then they fed into the economic, or you can actually look at it from an economic perspective feeding into social. So that's really quite good. All right, so let's move on then to did we have Chantel?
I looked at GDP growth and negative GDP growth, and this issue primarily links to Sustainable Development Goal 8, which is decent work and economic growth. But I would also say that it overlaps into the social aspect because a major component of GDP is consumption and government spending, and a lot of this spending is on education and jobs. So then it would link to the goals number 10, number 1 and 2, with issues like poverty, education, like that. Yeah, so that's basically what I have.
Right, that was actually really excellent. Yeah, so you're starting to see now that even though it says maybe economic and GDP growth is really purely an economic indicator, but then you look at it and you disaggregate it into government expenditure and consumption, and you saw then how it would affect at the household level. So yeah, that's really quite fantastic. Okay, let's move on now to who else do we have? Did we call Tamia? Did we call on you yet?
Hi, no. I worked on inclusive classrooms and sustainable business practices, as well as illegal immigrants, so those three. And inclusive classrooms, I considered it a social SDG, and it falls under, well, for me, I put it to fall under reduce inequality, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, because to get inclusive classrooms, you're going to have to adjust the infrastructure, etc. Quality education, yeah, and quality education, which is, yeah. And sustainable business practices, I considered it an economic as well as climate and environment SDG, because businesses, they affect the economy as well as their practices impact the climate and the environment. And I looked at the goals: climate action, life on land as well as on water, 14 and 15, industry, innovation, and infrastructure again, because, yeah, and decent work and economic growth, because how you do your business practices are going to affect the economy and stuff like that. And then for illegal immigrants, since considering immigration is such a broad topic, and there are a lot of reasons that people immigrate and are forced into immigrating illegally, those fall under, well, most of the Sustainable Development Goals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Because if in 6 could also be related to number 1 and 2 and 3. Because if you're poor, you can't really afford all those stuff. As well as decent world economic growth, number 9, number 10, 11, yeah, a lot of them fall under.
Right. Yeah, definitely with immigration. So you would have some that would directly impact them, and then some would be secondary. And yeah, but I also really like how you included so inclusive classrooms and look at infrastructure and accessibility, accessible infrastructure. So yes, really quite well thought out response. Okay, let's move on to Celine.
Hi. So I had unemployment and I classed it under economic. And I would also say that it overlaps with social and it relates with goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. And I also had it was with goal number 1, no poverty. And then I did youth opportunities, and I would say it goes under social and it's linked to sustainable development goal number 10, which is reduce inequalities.
Okay, fantastic. And let's just move on quickly now until we run out of time. To Maya.
Hi, so my 2 goals were under the social aspect of it. So with my first being proper education and inclusive classroom, which is SDG goal number 4, which is quality education, and my second being discrimination, which is goal number 5, which it falls under the category of gender equality. For proper education and inclusive classroom, the cross-cutting themes would be gender and technology, I believe. And for the discrimination, the cross-cutting themes, I believe, would be gender discrimination.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, and you see, you spoke about like the inclusive classrooms, and you spoke from a different perspective, whereas inclusive was sort of looking at from an infrastructure perspective, which is required, that Celine just did as well, to consider it from your more of a social perspective. So yeah, really excellent, good stuff. Selena, we wrap up with you.
Yeah. So I chose to focus on discrimination, domestic violence, and abuse. So I would say that goes under economic and social economic and social issues. Economic because there is gender, pay gaps in the system because of the patriarchy, yeah. And the SDGs, I would say that falls under gender inequality, good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities, and no poverty. And that's it.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we got like, even though we had some overlap within the issues that you selected, we saw that when you look at it in different perspectives, you would select maybe a different goal, and it's really quite interesting, I think, that you all selected these, as I said, broad range of topics or issues that are affecting you, and that I hope you're starting to see that how you can map these sustainable development goals and just sort of see the overlap within them. So right now, well, we're kind of running short on time, but are there any questions that you would like us, or that you have, or anything that you'd like to discuss before we move on?
No.
Okay, well, let's just go on to the group exercise. So we're going to break you all into groups again. We had 9 participants this morning, so we will just say that we have these 3 groups of 3. In the coming weeks, we'll see the responsiveness and decide if we have to tweak these groups. So what we want you to do is apply 1 or 2 SDGs to a community improvement project. And you will get a handout with what we're really looking for, but we want you to identify the main stakeholders. And so what is, sorry? Okay, so we want
sorry,
you
I forgot to mute my mic.
Okay, so yes, identify the main stakeholders. What are your solutions, and basically how the problem can be measured or tracked using the SDGs. So you're looking at your targets and indicators. And let me just share my other screen. One moment. So, okay, share screen. Wow. Okay, just give me a minute so I can share the right documents. So and this will be distributed to you all. Okay, I'll just share it in this moment. So are you all see my screen? Okay. Yes. So
Yes.
you just want to assess how you will apply the principles of sustainable development to an issue that's affecting you. So one of these things, maybe one of these topics or issues that you mentioned throughout today, or some other one, and we'll ask you to present over a period of 20 minutes. You'll have 3 groups of 3, as I mentioned, based on response next week, but we will put you in your groups now, and just sort of identify an issue that is affecting you and that you're passionate about solving. And we want you to describe the issue as well. So how does it affect young people in particular? And we kind of touched on that this morning. If it is already being addressed, how so? And who exactly is intervention targeting? So for example, I asked you to, how does it affect young people? But this issue could also be, there can be projects already looking into it, and but it may not be particularly oriented towards young people. So who is it targeting, and so which is the SDG that would apply? You can select 1 or 2, maybe more, but 1 or 2 would be a primary and a secondary one. And then how would you manage the issue? So if there's a program already existing, how does it differentiate? What is the differentiation between that? What will be your timeline for implementation, the resources, and who are the main actors, so your beneficiaries and your institutions? And then how would you track this progress? Again, your targets and your indicators. And what I think is really, this group assignment is a real opportunity, because as far as I understand, the United Nations would be selecting the most innovative idea and supporting it. So I think Leanne will be able to speak to that in the next session, but I think that's really something tremendous to look forward to. So we will distribute the group assignment, this document. I will map these SDGs, and you will get that we just discussed, and you will get that for next week as well. And and we, of course, as mentioned, we have already having groups of 3. So please let me know if you have any questions. And let me just stop my screen share. Let me know if you have any. Sorry, please go ahead.
We also have some additional material that we'll share with you guys. When we send out the email with all of the information that Tamara mentioned, UWI was also able to provide us with some videos of previous students that have worked on sustainable development projects and how those projects pretty much progressed. So we're going to share those videos with you guys as sort of guiding points. And from there, you can create your own project, and the best one, the UN will pick it up, and they're going to work on helping you implement it. It's a pretty cool goal to work towards, I think.
Okay, well, once again, thank you for your time. It was really a pleasure. And yeah, let's reconvene next week.
Cool. All right, you guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy it. We'll see you next week. Okay?
Okay, same to you. All right,
bye, you guys.
Bye.